Cool. So both shows have John Stamos in it. Actually, Grandfathered is going to be the bulk of tonight's show, and then Fuller House is going to be a follow-up for us. I'll actually possibly revisit that one a little more in depth because it's actually really, really good. I don't want to shy out and give you the full gusto. Cool, give me just a second. Cool, so I've talked extenuously about growing up with some of these characters, you know, some of these actors, some of these shows, some of these directors, you know. So one of the people in Grandfathered is Josh Peck. So he was a regular on a Disney show back in the day, and he was actually a pretty chunky kid, and his character was the supporting character, and he's since gone on to being a lead actor in quite a few different films. Let me pull up the IMDb for Grandfathered real quick. Cool, so bear with me just a second. Cool. So he was the chubby kid in Josh and Drake, right? So Joshua Peck was Josh from Drake and Josh, right? So he went on to do some solo films like after Drake and Josh went kaput, and he actually now that I remember, he had a lead part in Red Dawn with Chris Hemsworth as well. So he was the brother. So yeah, he was one of the Eckharts. So Jed and Matt were the two boys of the father in that film, which was captured. Tom Eckhart, which was Brett Cullen. Anywho, cool. So Josh Peck is he is part of Grandfathered. Grandfathered is a show about John Stamos. John Stamos is the protagonist. He's the lead here. It centers around a family who so it centers around a restaurant owner who is played by John Stamos here. He owns a restaurant, and his ex hid a child from him for a very, very long time. So in the first episode, this comes out very oddly. So the comedy in here is really, really good. So it's a Fox original, and it's its first season. So in this show, the dynamic of the show is really hilarious. The setup is very punchy, you know. So the delivery for John is very punchy. So you know, there's a lot of you know, expectations that go into a show with someone who's so notorious from, you know, major shows that we know. So Fuller House, you know, whenever they started that show, there was a lot of expectations and a lot of resistance potentially at those projects, you know. So it's like, it just brings up a lot of things, you know, and it's hard to imagine that we want some new, more of the same old stuff. For myself, you know, I often think, why are we revisiting some of these subjects that we are touching on right now? So Grandfathered is a completely new show about a family that we is very odd family. So John comes in as this adopted father who is a very high-profile bachelor playboy type. So him being a father all of a sudden overnight is just like kind of a kink in his playboy reputation, you know, that he has going on here in his restaurant. So in his restaurant, he is like the be all end all, and he's the center of all of the energy in this place. So the restaurant thrives on him, and when he's boring, the restaurant's boring and doing bad. So these are the dynamics that we go through in the season of the show, and it has an eclectic cast. So there are quite a few different archetypes that we have going on here. So there's the lead kitchen. So the back of the house staff is hilarious. The front of the house staff is hilarious too. So John himself is part of the front of the house staff. He's like the front of the house manager. He also is the owner, but he's more so the face of this place. So this place is very, very nice. So it's a substantial restaurant in whatever city he's in. I don't think the city plays a huge part in this story. But anyways, so in the restaurant, his character is very vital. So when he needs an uplift, so does the restaurant. So there is all of this dynamic going on, you know, like The Office or several other shows that are just like leading around 4 or 5 different characters, you know. So there's a bunch: Parks and Recreations, Workaholics, a bunch of different shows. So while this one is a little more conservative, let's say that. So it does uphold a lot of tradition, and there's a lot of really, really cool guest stars. So let me see if I can try to find one. Yeah, so let me see what other. So there's quite a few. So there were some funny guys. So there is a variety of cast. So his staff, he has a personal secretary, a black lady, and she's lesbian. And in the show, some of the episodes explore that. So everything is kind of sprung on John and his character. So these things are kind of impeding on what his life currently is, right? So he's worked a lot to get his life here. So at times he shoves, you know, his new adopted family kind of away. So the family consists of a son that he never knew that he had, so by an ex. So this ex comes back into his life, and they are allowed to kind of rekindle this relationship. As it starts very rocky and slow, it builds up very quickly, and a lot of that, you know, is abrupt, you know. So while they haven't had 30 years to know each other, all of a sudden now he is a father, but also he's grandfathered. So the son has a kid, you know, and the kid is a young girl, and she's very, very funny, and she's like 2. So he and the mom are kind of like a thing and then kind of not. So it's really cool because it's played by Christine Milian. I think I said that right. But anyways, she has a substantial music career, and she is also she has a lot to add to the show, as she is very loud, sort of ghetto, comes from so in the show she plays a Hispanic, and I'm not sure what her ethnicity or background is, but she speaks Spanish in there and stuff, and but anyways, she comes from a very small community. She's very outspoken. Like I'm saying, she's kind of ghetto, right? So Josh, his character is very nerdy, so we don't really see the connection, and then through many episodes we see why, you know, he likes her, why she's a good mom, you know. So there's just all of these relationship constraints that are going on. There's all of these limits and barriers, and through the episodes we grow bigger than these limitations and these barriers, and we become a very, very cool family. And you know, they enjoy each other, but they also get on each other's nerves. So for me, the dynamic of the show is very, very cool. It's been very fun. It's been very easy to get to know these characters and to grow with these characters. While you know, there's been a ton of really good guest stars. I think Gabrielle Union has been on the show. Let me see. So we don't, because it's possibly not Gabrielle Union. Let me see who the guest stars. Let me see if I can find some of them. Anyways, so Josh Peck's character is very nerdy, okay? So he's like, and he hasn't really found who he is. He knows he is someone special, but he himself is still in a very moldable state and growing. So he oftentimes doesn't have room for this growth in this family. So he doesn't really seem to fit in. He kind of is like the oddball here sometimes. But everything kind of revolves around him, right? So, and he and this child and, you know, this mother and, you know, they don't really get along, but then they really do, you know? So, anywho, at times, it seems like they're growing closer, and then at times, they're very much growing apart. Cool. So the show has quite a few different comedians that are really cool too. Ravi Patel, he's the back of the house staff who was like a brother to John Stamos, and looks up to him as well. So Bob Saget was actually in the show a few times. Obviously, we know John Stamos' relationship. So the guy that I was looking for is Michael Trucco. So I actually don't know. And then the woman is not Gabrielle Union, it's Regina Hall. But anyways, don't tell her I said that about her. Well, that I got her confused with Gabrielle Union. But anyways, Michael Trucco. And I was confusing Michael Trucco with fucking Dax Shepard. But anyways, Michael Trucco is ending up to be one of the really cool guys that I've clearly forgotten about from Battlestar Galactica. So he was Samuel Anders. So he was a Starbucks fucking man. It ends up being like one of the final five or some shit in Battlestar Galactica. But anyways, so he makes an appearance on this show dating John's ex, you know, who shows up with this child who's this bastard child, right? So I've been watching a lot of medieval movies, so they always call the son a bastard kid, and so it catches on, right? So Josh Peck is the bastard son here, or the the surrogate kid, right? But anyways, cool. So the show is really has been very. It's been very enlightening, you know. It's been very fun to grow with these people, you know. So to have these relationships to kind of fuck them up again, even though they're brand new, and then to just like to be able to repair that and to kind of get to these next phases of what's going on, you know. So in this first season, these characters have grown so much. So, anyways, I fucking just watched like 10 episodes back to back. So maybe you'll like it. Check it out. Let's kind of segue into, and you know, I was saying before we segue off, before I was just kind of saying, you know, we were growing up with some of these characters. So Josh Peck is definitely one of those ones that just keep going back and watching, you know, like Emil Hirsch and you know, Sarah Relish for me, you know, Taylor Kitsch. So, you know, ones that we just keep wanting to see get really, really good and really big and just grow and develop into, you know, like Robert Downey. So you watch them from like really young and until they get really old, and not really, really old, but you know, into more senior parts, you know. So I was saying before, like William Hurt, the parts that he plays, like you just hope to get to be that character someday. So, you know, you got to grow up and be a man to do that stuff, right? So, you know, it's cool to see these guys like, so Mr. Even Stevens, you know, God, Shia LaBeouf, right? So just go from being Mr. Even Stevens in that, you know, just like curly-haired little, you know, kid, you know, obnoxious little kid, you know, and then just go, you know, from being that into, so one of the most recent projects that I saw Shia LaBeouf in was the Sia, let me pull it up, this Sia song, music video. And so it was really, really innovational for me. I love really good music videos, you know. But anyways, let me pull up the. It's called Chandelier. Let's see. It's called and then so it features Shia LaBeouf and Medley Ziegler, and they just do this very expressionistic fucking performance. I'll play it so you can kind of hear something. You pull it up and watch it, yeah? It's really, really cool. So in these parts, it's to me, it feels like he's an ape, and you know, when he's tapping here in his heart and feeling it in his chest, and they're just doing all these very expressionistic things and like attacking each other. So the choreography here was just like insane, and then like she loses her voice here, like it's being taken away, and then like he shows like vulnerability and like goes to her, and she shows vulnerability back. They both seem like apes to me, you know. So and then they go back and forth from being like these apes to these very spiritual, expressionistic creatures who are expressing like anger and hatred, and also very whimsical and humoristic and playful as well. Where she's chasing him, you know, backward with her hand beneath her and stuff, and you know, he runs into the cage and slams into the cage, and she's on his back, and you know, they're just throwing each other around and going through all of these motions. He climbs up to the top of this cage, and all of this confined room, and you know, this brute strength that he's showing here, and him just being at the top of the cage, her playfully wanting him, but also, so these animals, when you watch them in the cage, they have this weirdness about them, you know. So it's like they flirt with leaving, and then they flirt with being here as well. So I would call this some sort of bird cage. So they seem very flirty like birds in this cage, and they're very weird characters in this cage. And so she turns her back to him, and he goes to caress her, you know, and she bites him, and he runs, and he's like kind of embarrassed, you know, I would say, for showing that sort of vulnerability, like wanting her, but then is very forward about wanting her still. So he comes back and, you know, is attacking her, you know, and playfully throwing her around and showing his strength, and she slaps him. So, and he goes to chase her, and she gets out of the cage, and he's very upset by this. It is disturbing, and he could obviously get out of the cage as well. But she stands there watching him, and he he shows his frustration, and he wants her to come back and play, yeah. And she does, and he's shy, and she is very not shy here. And, you know, they are bonding. He has her, and she has him, and it is very emotional, right? Anywho, so I don't know if you guys know, but Shia LaBeouf is actually directed, so they're very, very playful here. She's pounding him on the head, he's carrying her. She plays with his eyebrows and kind of molds his face, and you know, kind of messes with him like he's the baby, you know. And she's clearly much younger than him, and I mean, I think, but yeah, so she takes him to where he cannot go. And you know, they struggle with this barrier, and it's very emotional, right? Cool. So, you know, Shy is been someone that, and it is a very, very emotional, right? So creatures are emotional like that, and especially if you watch caged creatures and how they act and how playful it get, and how sometimes these plays get very emotional, and you know, you all know how it got. You know, remember whenever you're 4 or 5 years old in the backyard and you were very excited and playful, and then things went very south very quickly, but then, you know, you didn't want that to go anywhere. You still wanted to be friends. So anyways, the end of this video is similar in nature to show this bittersweetness, yeah? So cool. It was very emotional, right? I had a lot. So I've been watching a lot of his stuff lately. Some of it I haven't really gotten the opportunity to, and then like all the sex stuff, like I haven't really been watching none of that. You know, not to say that I wouldn't, you know, like, but anyways. I just haven't gotten around to it. There's quite a few films where he played like this country rock star, I believe. But anyways, like 3 or 4 films on Netflix that I haven't really got the opportunity to watch. Those 2 particular films, he did one like erotic film, and then did like a sequel right back to it, and then did one before that where he was portraying a rock star. But anyways, so I did like the project with Tom Hardy at Lawless. Was a very, very, very good film. If you haven't gotten the opportunity to watch that, check that out. But anyways, so yeah, I'll go and wrap it for today. Since we segued way south, and then we were done with the grandfather anyways. But, you know, it did give me the opportunity to talk more about, you know, people that we've grown up with, and, you know, who we hope to see. People like that are going to have a very, very long future, right? So, we hope to see him do very, very cool things like Johnny Depp and stuff. You know, we got to see him grow into an older gentleman like Robert Downey Jr., you know. So cool. Also, you know, people like Kiefer Sutherland and stuff like that. Cool. So, until next time, yeah?